to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Raising Confident Girls. I am Melissa Jones, your host and the founder of Girls Positivity Club. We also call it GPC, and what we are is a nonprofit positive after-school club for young girls to grow their confidence through belonging, growth, feeling safe, having fun through creative activities, and really just helping them navigate a chaotic world. You know, girls are facing a lot of challenges, as you know, as a parent of a girl, and we're here to help and support. So if you did not know that, that is a little tiny bit of what we do in Girls Positivity Club. But welcome to today's episode, which is focused on, are other people's opinions holding your daughter back? And I think this is a topic even for especially women. I mean, I know because I obviously am a woman, but I know that other people, might struggle with this too. And, we think about like what people are going to think of us if we, as adults. Like I know I think about like, if I post something, like, is it gonna, are they gonna like it? Are they gonna think I'm, doing this too much or that too much? Or if I say something, we all say things we don't mean sometimes in real life and to the people that we love most sometimes. And it's like, I don't want them to think that I meant that. I was just frustrated or whatever it would be. And really tying it into the girls, I hear this so much from trying new things, raising your hand in class, just saying what you really feel to your friends. And I know those sound like really basic things, but they're human challenges. And our girls really struggle with that because, and it doesn't mean every second of every day, but because they care about what other people think. And I heard Mel Robbins talking about like, if you say, I don't care what anyone thinks, like, I'm just going to do my own thing and, all of that, it's not completely honest because it doesn't mean we live our lives for other people's opinions, but we all do care a little bit about what other people think of us. And especially as girls are growing up and figuring out who they are and who they want to be in the world, sometimes, especially as they're getting older, that can really hold them back, wondering like, what do people think of me if I say this, do this, or whatever. So today I'm going to give you some tools for helping your daughter navigate that. And they might even help you too if you are facing this as well. And I feel like that at any age, all of these tips we can use in our daily lives. And that's really what this podcast is for, is helping this younger generation of girls grow into confident women. And doesn't mean they have to be perfect and they have everything figured out, just like you don't have to. But it's really believing, and I know that if you listen to this podcast, you believe this too, that confident girls will change the world. And not only confident girls, but girls that have the tools to live a positive life. Doesn't mean that they have to have a perfect life. Doesn't mean they ignore feelings. Doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that they will have the tools and the seeds planted as they're growing up so that they know how to navigate challenges as they come in a healthy way. And that's really what we all want for our girls, right? Is for them to know how to handle some of these things. Because the number one thing that I hear from parents all the time, especially women, is, man, if I would have had this growing up, I wonder where I would have been, or I wonder where I would be today. Because, we didn't know. You do the best you can at the time with the tools you have. And I think this work is so much more, I don't want to say common because it's not necessarily always common, but it's really more openly talked about now. And that's a good thing. And so there's always time that you can figure things out and try something new and all of that. And so even as you're listening to this now and you're like, I wish I would have had this as a girl, you can think, well, I know it now, and I can pass that on to my daughter, and I can do that myself. So it's a win-win. So I want you to think about, this is something that girls will say to me a lot, and that is, they're afraid to maybe try something new or raise their hand in class. So I recently had a girl who was like, I really want to try volleyball, but I've never played before. And all the girls that are playing, like, they have a lot of experience. And even though they're friendly girls, so these weren't like mean girls who were like, no one can play except the people that are, advanced or whatever. The girl was like, I really wanted to try it, but outside of gym class or PE class, whatever you call it, she wasn't sure like how to ask to join or to ask if she could play, because she was really concerned about what they would think of her if she wasn't good. So that's one example. And it just causes, when we think of other people's opinions, a lot of times we make it so much worse in our heads, and our daughters and the girls in our lives can make it so much worse in our own heads of like, what are they going to think? What if they think I'm terrible? What if they think they don't want to be my friend anymore? What if they judge me and think like she's actually not that good, because maybe she's not, and that's okay. You're not supposed to be, I think this is something that we all forget sometimes, no matter our age, is like, you're not necessarily supposed to be perfect at something the very first time you do it. And of course we can compare ourselves to people who are in a different chapter of their lives, or they have more experience, and like we look at the person that we admire, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not anywhere near them. So why should I do it too? And it's like, well, they started as a beginner too. And maybe they started at a younger age, or maybe they have worked on things that you have no idea about. And it's not really fair to yourself or to your daughter to compare herself to that person, even though it still does happen. And it's really just having those conversations about, you never know where they started and how hard they've worked to get there. And then some people are just more naturally good at something, and that doesn't mean that you can't learn it. And yeah, so that's the first one that comes to mind. Another one is, I have heard this for years from girls, and I would do like a poll in my class where I'd say, raise your hand if you've ever been afraid to raise your hand in class. And that's a little bit of a tricky question. Now, I built a lot of trust with my class before I asked them that big question. But sometimes I've said, raise your hand if you only raise your hand. I'm not going to call on you. Raise your hand if you only raise your hand if you're 100% sure that you know the answer is correct. And pretty much every hand went up, and mostly girls. And so that is so telling of, they're even afraid to look wrong in front of their peers, because they don't want to be seen as, if they say something that might be perceived as weird or wrong, or that they're not smart if they say the wrong answer, or they're going to be laughed at, or whatever it is. And as parents, we've all seen this moment in some degree in our daughters and the girls in our lives. And it doesn't always look the same for every girl. It could be that maybe she is in an advanced class, or she is on a team, and she makes a silly mistake, and she worries about that because she doesn't normally do that. And she's thinking about what other people think of her, like, gosh, I'm usually known as being really good for this. And what will they think if I mess up, if I trip, if I fall, if I this, if I that? And it's really, really common. And sometimes they don't always express that to us. They can kind of internalize it and not talk about it that much, because they even might fear, if they talk to you about it, that they are letting you down, and you might think that they XYZ, whatever the case would be. And so, that that's not true. Maybe it's in grades where they get really good grades, and maybe they have an off day and they didn't follow directions, or they just didn't get something and they didn't do as well as they normally do, especially high achieving girls, who are used to getting over 100%, or they're used to getting 90s always, which are A's, and they get a B. And to them, that's like a huge failure. They think their parents are going to be mad at them, ground them, all this. They catastrophize it. And so it's like, even worrying about the opinions of, if they get a lower grade than usual on something, if you're going to, be mad at them, be disappointed in them, and they're thinking about these things too. They're already feeling it themselves and like, how could I have done this? Because we're the hardest on ourselves, right? Especially girls. I just feel like we're wired to just think that way sometimes. And what we want is for our daughters to be able to come to us and talk to us about these things without fear of judgment of even what we think, and just reassuring them that, of course, we love them unconditionally, whether they get, whatever grade or whatever, if they trip and fall or make a mistake, whatever it is, we still love them. We still support them. We're still in their corner. And we'll help them in any way we can. We just want to keep emphasizing that as much as we can, because as much as we think that it's already known, they still need to hear it. They still need to know that you're that safe person that they can talk to, even when it's something that they think you may not want to hear. So this is even when you have tough conversations with your girls and they might be afraid to tell you something that they're feeling because they don't want to disappoint you, or they don't want you to worry about them. They don't want you to think that they're crumbling, but they actually are internally struggling with something, and it's providing those check-ins, those open conversations to help you stay connected and for you to let them know that they are allowed to feel that and they can also express it, and you can support them through it too. So really what we want is for girls to stand in their confidence, to be able to use their voice, to be able to say what they mean, and do the things, try the things, try out for the play, make the mistakes, and not let other people's judgment hold them back. I know for me, I know that whenever I would, like at a sleepover, whenever I would show my true personality, which is, I can be kind of weird sometimes or like goofy, I really worried about letting my guard down and not acting like everyone else. And it was not well received sometimes when I did. So it wasn't like I did extreme things, but I might say something a little off the cuff, or I might just do something that maybe other girls might think is, childish or too young for your age, or do a weird dance or say something that I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. Like, I don't even know why I said that. Whatever it would be. And they'd be like, you're weird, and that would be maybe a time where I let my guard down. And the you're weird, even though we know we're all unique, we're all weird in our own way, stung me so deeply, because it was like the moment I let my guard down and I like did my goofy dance or I did my thing that was truly me, if someone made a comment that I was weird or made a face, it completely shut me down. And then I put that wall right back up to where I was like, okay, that's proof that I can't be myself. I can't belong just for, doing these things. And eventually I found people that didn't treat me that way, but it just was really hard to navigate, knowing like, when is it okay to let my guard down, and when can I say the comment and maybe we laugh about it instead of being judged for it or whatever it is. Or like in class, if I don't know, like made a noise or did something that was maybe whatever, people, or said something like, have you ever thought about like what would happen if, and I just made up something like from my imagination, and I said it to someone who maybe they weren't even my friend, but they were like, you're weird, and it's like, that really stung me a lot. So it's all of those kinds of things. And these things do happen today. And I think even as adults, like we have people that comment on anything, and it can really rock our confidence. And so what we want for our girls is for them to be able to hear those comments and it not shake them completely like it did for me, and make them change everything about themselves. I think sometimes constructive criticism is good, but it's not the same when you hear it from your peers and they're like, you didn't know what that answer was. When someone says it in a really judgy way and they're like, I thought I did. And then it just kind of starts to make that internal voice be like, maybe I shouldn't speak up. Like maybe I'm going to be too judged. And so that's like living their life of worrying about what other people think of them. And it starts this pattern of doubting themselves and self-doubt. And so that she might be interested in a new hobby, in something she's proud of, and other people don't feel like it's something to be proud of. Like, oh, I did that last year. That happens where you're like, I scored my first goal in my soccer game, or I finally made this drawing without having to erase it 50 times. And they're like, I've done that like a lot of times. And it's this comment that it just kind of deflates. And again, it's not that they want to be friends with that person, but it's the fear of that type of opinion. And unfortunately, unless we are really teaching our girls how to navigate that and really pour into herself and being like, it's okay if she thinks that way. She's kind of a jerk anyway. And I can be proud of myself and not worry about what if other people are or not. I am proud of what I'm doing. And they don't know the journey that I've been on. Maybe it's taken her a long time to even have the fine motor skills to draw this certain thing. And that kid doesn't know that, nor do they need to. But it's like not letting a comment, a judgment, any of those situations question everything about herself. We want our girls to be able to stand tall. And yes, of course, there's still going to be those moments, even if she's super confident, where someone might make a mean comment, someone might judge. But it's like, you know what? Let them judge. They're not my people anyway. I can still be proud of myself. I can still feel good about who I am. I can still say a wrong answer and know that the world isn't going to end or that everyone's going to start hating me. And that's really what we want, right? And it's just being honest about, yeah, of course, it's normal to want to please people or to care what other people think. That's part of having a heart and being a caring person. But what we don't want is for our girls to live their lives to only please others, to do only the things that they feel will be accepted, and to be afraid to express themselves in their own way, even if it won't necessarily be understood by everyone. So we want to give them that sense of confidence that they still can do that. And, it can be something small, like I said, like even an outfit they wear. Maybe they aren't quite sure about the outfit, but they wear it anyway. And then someone makes a comment. Or it could be the opposite. It could be, what we want is for them to wear the outfit. And it's knowing that it's okay if not everybody likes it or says, like, your style's weird. Or I can't believe you wore that to school. That's super dressy for school or something like that. And then be like, I don't care. I like it, and being okay with not everybody having to agree with them, or not everybody having a positive opinion about every single thing they do. Because how exhausting is that to live that way, And I know I have, and now I have the confidence because I've worked on myself so much, and I'm still a work in progress. Like I always say, I'm not a perfect person at all, but I think it's just giving them those seeds and those tools while they're growing up so they know how to navigate it. And so, this could be the problem with these things is like I said, these external opinions of others, the self-doubt, it can create that for the girls. And we want their internal voice, their confident voice, to be louder than the opinions, the self-doubt, the lack of self-worth, all of those things, to help build that in them and to trust their own judgment and to ignore the noise that's surrounding them as much as they can, and know that they can be the model for other girls and they can show other girls what's possible. And even with wearing the outfit, raising your hand, saying your opinion in a way that is like, well, not everyone may agree with this, but this is what I believe. And it's not about being like, negative attitude, like, I don't care what anyone thinks, I'm going to offend everyone and I'm going to this and that. It's more just about like, no, this is what I believe. And it's okay if you disagree with me. And it's also okay if you don't want to hang out with me because of it. And that's a really hard thing, but it's teaching them too that not everyone is for you. So I used to think that everyone had to like me, and everybody, if someone didn't like me, I would question, like, why don't they like me? What is it? What have I done wrong? And it doesn't even mean you've done anything wrong and your daughter has done anything wrong. They just may not like something about you, and that's okay. And, it's being able to share your opinion and knowing that not everybody has to agree with every single thing you say. And not everybody has to be your best friend or your friend even. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. And it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It's just, you can have your own voice and your own opinion, and you don't have to let other people control what you do and say. That's really it. And having the confidence to believe that. So, how can you do this? You might be asking. So, one of the ways, and we've talked about this before, is creating that judgment free zone at home. And it's letting them be heard and having those times where, in those places where our daughters can check in with us, they can openly talk with us, they can feel safe to express herself, like she can feel safe to express herself without fearing like, if I share this, they might ground me or they might think I'm this or that, even with you. So it's being in the space where you can say to her, if she comes home and she tells you that everyone made fun of her outfit that day, and you don't know if it was everyone or if it's just a few people she really cared about their opinion, it is letting her vent, validating, and her even validating. I just heard a researcher talk about this that was talking about like we have to validate our own feelings. Like, it's okay for me to be sad about this. This is a normal reaction, because I think we want to jump to the rescue sometimes and be like, oh, who cares what they think? Just don't worry about it. And although we have good intentions when we say things like that, it's not really validating how they're feeling. Like saying something like, yeah, I see how that could be really hard. Really, even if you don't see, or you're like, who cares? For them, it's a huge deal. And so it's validating doesn't always mean that you have to agree with everything. It just means being like, yeah, I see how you could feel that way, and not giving advice right away, just listening. So if she's coming home and being like, she said this comment about my shoes or my outfit or whatever it is, instead of saying like, you shouldn't care what she thinks, who cares what she thinks, you could say something like, I know you're feeling hurt about what happened today. Do you like your outfit, or do you feel good about what you said? And if she's like, yeah, I actually do, then you can have the conversations about, well, you have every right to feel this way about her reaction, and it's okay if she doesn't agree with you, if that's not her style, whatever it is. And it's letting her speak without rushing in to always solve her problems. And it's holding that space to make sure that she can help make sense of her feelings. And sometimes, especially with girls who are verbal processors, we need to just get it out and talk about what it is that's on our mind and kind of work through it ourselves. And a lot of times they'll even come up with their own solution by the end of the conversation, just by processing through it and talking, and you just supporting her through that conversation. And a way to open this conversation, if she comes home and like runs to her room and slams the door, could be, going and checking on her, giving her space and being like, hey, I can tell something's bothering you. Do you want to talk about what happened, or do you want to share? And also allowing her to be not ready in that moment and say something like, I don't want to talk about it right now. And instead of pushing, because I've done this before where you're like, oh, come on, just talk about it, you'll feel better. And almost like begging them to talk about it in that moment, it might be too raw and she needs to kind of process through it herself first. And maybe it's just opening the door and being like, okay, well, if you want to talk about it later, I'm here for you. And it may not even happen that night. It may happen at a later time. And I think we can panic sometimes when they don't want to talk about it right then. But they're sometimes too upset in that moment. And like I said, they're trying to process through it themselves first before they talk about it. Other girls, they want to talk about it right at the time. So it's offering that question. It's like my favorite question. Are you open to talking about this right now? Are you open? Puts the ball in their court. It helps them know that it's up to them if they want to share in that moment. And it's also letting them know that if they don't want to talk about it right then, it's okay, and that you'll check in with them later. And it's holding that space for them and letting them know that you are there and you are going to listen without trying to jump to conclusions, force them to talk, or solve the problem for them, that you're there for them. And so just figuring out what version of that works for you, and the time and place is so important of when you would talk to them about those certain things too. So the first tip is to create that judgment-free zone. And just by doing those things, you are doing that because you're letting them be heard. The second one is let her celebrate her unique qualities. So letting them be proud of who they are. And what you do is encouraging her to embrace what makes her unique. So if someone does call them weird, or they're like, I can't believe that you wore that, or I can't believe you said that, or they're not accepted for whatever reason, you can say something like, it's okay if you have different hobbies than your friends. And I love how passionate you are about learning about this. Like, not everyone may want to learn about whatever the topic is. And even if your friends aren't into the same things, that's your own unique special thing. And that's okay. And that's good. And that's what makes you you. And so if her friends are making fun of her for it, that's a totally different thing. But if they're just like, why do you like anime? Or why do you like, why are you obsessed with this one chef? Or why do you, whatever it would be, then you can just validate her and help her celebrate the fact that it's really cool that she has her own interest, and she doesn't have to have the exact same interest as every single one of her friends. And in fact, they're going to have different interests too. So maybe it's even opening a conversation of, ask them what their unique things are. Like, is there something that they secretly are passionate about or interested in that they don't always share? And just be like, yeah, this is like my own thing that I like to do in my spare time. Is there anything that you like are interested in that you don't really talk about much? And so it's even having them talk to their friends about these kind of things too. And it's holding space for their friends, and it's celebrating, her individuality, who she is, and knowing that being different, as we all know, is something to be proud of. And it doesn't mean that we're weird. It doesn't mean that we're not accepted. And every single person shouldn't be alike, because that would be so boring to have every single person alike and no one shares any different opinion. Um, and that she can feel good about who she is and who she wants to be. And if people are repeatedly judging her, or um, not treating her the way she should be treated, that's when it's kind of that reflective question of, are those the people that you want to be around? Do they make you feel good? Do they make you feel lifted up? Do they make you feel supported as a friend? And if not, then it's a time to take a look at their friendship group and look for the people that will do that for them and that they can do that for as well, because they want to do that too. Like, even if they come home and say that their friend is really into this one thing and they think it's weird because they never were before, and you can remind them that it's kind of like her interest in her thing, if she ever brings that up too. So it's about also reciprocating and doing that for her friends. So it's just saying something to her like, I think it's amazing that you enjoy learning about whatever, or whatever the activity is. It's a cool way to show who you are and that you're unique and your talents in different ways. So that is the second one. And then the third one is letting her navigate peer pressure and make choices, because as much as we would like to be there with them at every second of every day, we really can't have them living in a bubble. We've got to help, like I said, plant those seeds for how to navigate peer pressure. And so it's really a reality. I talked about this on another episode, a few episodes back, is like, peer pressure is a reality at every age, and it shows up in different ways for your daughter and as she grows. And your job is really to give her the tools, give her the support to navigate it confidently. And it doesn't mean, again, that it has to go perfectly all the time, but it's teaching her to make choices that align with her own values and not just what's popular. Because there are popular people that are nice. There are popular people that are kind and nice, and they just like a lot of people, and a lot of people like them. But if there are things that, not just about popularity, but what other people are doing, and she doesn't agree with it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a dangerous choice, but maybe everyone starts going to this certain place after school, and your daughter's like, I just don't feel right when I'm there. Like, it's not that it's a dangerous place or a negative thing. It's just not me. And so it's really checking in with herself about what are her core values. And those could be your family core values. You could talk about those, and asking her about what her values are in friendship and just in life. Is it kindness? Is it trustworthiness? Is it standing up for yourself? What is it that she really values? And then it's kind of matching, like, okay, is this choice going to match up with that. And they are going to make mistakes. They are going to ignore their inner voice sometimes. And that's part of learning, right? Is we've all done it and we're like, I knew I shouldn't have done that, or I knew I shouldn't have gone there, or whatever. And again, it doesn't have to mean that it was this extreme, like dangerous thing, but as soon as you do it, you know it. And it's really teaching her to be reflective about her choices without also micromanaging. And really, it's just teaching her how to handle peer pressure. If she doesn't want to wear this certain trendy thing, like maybe her friends, I heard this in school where they would be like, we're going to do twin day tomorrow and everybody's going to wear hot pink. Maybe your daughter doesn't like hot pink. And she's like, I don't actually want to do that. And they're like, come on, we're all doing it. It's our thing. We're just going to do whatever. So maybe your daughter doesn't do it, or maybe she does it in her own way. That's like, maybe I'll wear a t-shirt that has like a touch of it in it. But she doesn't feel like she has to rush out and buy something that matches because she doesn't want to make her friends mad, things like this. It's helping her process through like making that choice. Do I have to do that? Do I want to do that? Are they really going to leave me as friends if I don't wear hot pink that day on twin day or whatever it is? So as silly as that may sound as an example, that is a real example of peer pressure. And it's also teaching her to communicate with her friends. Like, you guys are my best friends and I really want to be, part of twin day. I'm not feeling hot pink. Like, you guys know I don't love hot pink. What's something else I could do that would still be part of your twin day thing, but not necessarily wearing this certain thing? Like, just her having the courage to talk to them about it, and they'll figure it out. They always do. And it also could be decision-making skills. This is really important because these types of things, and not giving in to every single thing, letting her make her own choices and navigating like, okay, does that align with who I want to be and what I believe and all of that? It really is helping build that decision making while she's growing up, so that when she's becoming a young adult, she can take those things with her and she can still do the same things, like checking in with herself, doing, things that feel aligned with her. And then if there is something that comes up that's risky or dangerous, she can already have that self-awareness and already have that tool of asking herself, like, am I comfortable with this? Does this feel like a good choice for me? And, reminding her, of course, the old saying, you don't have to do everything everyone else is doing. They don't always want to hear that. And a lot of times we'll get the eye roll, but it is something, whatever version of that you want to use. Maybe it's, does this feel right for me? Maybe that's the question. Instead of, would you do it if everyone else did it? If everyone jumped off a cliff, would you? And they're always like, that's a terrible example because I'm not going to jump off a cliff, but you know what I'm saying? So just having that question, and you can decide that question with her, or she can come up with her own question. That'd be a great conversation. And the next one is to let them practice that self-reflection. So letting them learn from experience. So I mentioned before that they're not always going to listen to that inner voice, or they're going to go against a value at some time. And I would love to tell you that there's a way to prevent that, but there really isn't. And that's part of learning, right? That's part of growing, is figuring out those things. And when they don't feel aligned for her, feeling that and knowing that, okay, I need to reflect on that. So it's helping her be reflective of like, how did you feel when that happened? How did you know after it happened that that wasn't the right thing for you? So just asking her those kinds of reflective questions and helping her through it, and encouraging her to process through what happened, and giving her, the question to ask herself. Like, let's say that her confidence was really tested after a friend made a comment that was like, unkind, or maybe said something out of characters, like maybe her best friend, and it wasn't like her to say that. And so maybe you'll say to her, how do you feel now that you've had time to think about it? Think about what happened. What would you do differently next time? And maybe she makes a mistake. Maybe she does something that she's like, maybe I said something that wasn't the kindest or wasn't the best idea in that moment. And it's asking her, like, what would you do differently next time? And what could you do to make it right with that friend? Or what could you do to express how you felt about that, even if, you're not sure how she'll react if it's something that maybe a friend said to her. So it's really teaching her that self-reflection and those questions, helping her process through her emotions, validating, like, in the moment I did feel this certain way and it's okay that I felt that way, and trusting her judgment, and knowing that even if she makes a mistake, she can learn from it and grow from it, and she'll do better the next time. So yeah, it's just asking, what's one thing you do differently next time, and what do you learn? That's really all it can be. And if she's not used to doing that, it's going to take a little bit of time for her to get used to being reflective. But over time, it will really, really help her. And you modeling that for her even is going to be really good. Like, well, here's how, in my case, when this has happened to me before, here's what I felt and here's what I learned. So it could be an example of when you're a kid or even as an adult. Like, this just happened to me the other day. I did this certain thing. It came out the wrong way, or I shared something that was very personal, and I realized right then that it wasn't the right crowd to share that with. And what I learned was, it's not that I'm going to have my guard up all the time, but I'll just know next time that when this happens, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll explain that. And that modeling is really going to help her. And it's also going to help you share vulnerability with her, that this doesn't just happen to kids. This doesn't just happen to girls. This happens through your whole life, and it's nothing to fear. It's just part of learning how to stand tall and feel good about who you are, and know that you can share your opinions without worrying about every single thing everyone's thinking about you at all times. And even as an adult, we just always work on those things, and we check in with ourselves about it, and we think about it. And then the last one is letting her make her own decisions, which is, like I said before, she is going to make her own decisions. She's going to make her own mistakes. And you want to empower her to make her own decisions on her own and not be dependent. We can guide them, but we don't want them to be dependent on everything we think even. Yes, of course, we want them to have the values and all of the strength and everything that comes from our families and our beliefs and everything. But having her make small decisions and gradually moving to bigger ones is one way that you can empower her to practice that. So this encourages her to be independent, to show herself that she can trust her own judgment. So like at the elementary school level, this seems so basic, but helping her make decisions about what she's going to wear to school. So having her lay out her clothes or pick out her outfits, even if you don't agree, because I've been there so many times, like, I cannot believe you're putting that together, but letting her decide. So those are little decisions, or letting her decide what she's going to pack in her lunch, letting her decide what she's going to have for her after school snack. I know those sound like really little things, but it's her having control over something, or deciding on a family activity, or deciding on what movie to watch. Those little things are really going to help her. And although you're going to have your guidelines and rules in place, it's really going to help her feel like she's flexing that muscle of making decisions on her own and not always depending on the other opinions of everyone else to make every decision that she makes. And then she can move to bigger ones. And so this might be, as she's getting older, like picking out her own summer camp, or picking out her own activities, and being brave to say which ones she isn't liking anymore and what ones she wants to try. And maybe it's allowing her to pick a volunteer opportunity. Like maybe you're like, one of our family values is giving back. What kind of after school activity do you want to volunteer at? So maybe there are younger kids and she wants to volunteer there. Or do you want to go to a soup kitchen and volunteer there? Or do you want to go to an animal shelter? Or do you want to go to a horse therapy place and help them muck the stalls, or whatever it would be? So really it is dependent on what she wants to do, and letting her make those decisions really empowers her and helps her build that confidence and knowing that she can make decisions for herself too. And in doing those small to bigger decisions in your home environment where you can control it, it is really helping her feel good about doing that when she's on her own too, which is good. So you can say things to her as she's making a decision, like maybe she's not used to that and this is going to be new, and it would be like, well, I don't know what everyone else is going to want to watch, or I don't know, this or that. And she's like doubting herself. You can say to her, like, I trust you to make this decision. Like, what do you think is the best choice for you? It's totally up to you and it's okay. And just reassuring her that no one's going to be mad at her if she does this certain thing. And yeah, maybe not everybody's going to like her movie choice, or maybe people are going to be like, why are you in that club when we're in this other club? And it's really just standing strong and being like, well, that's the best choice for me. I feel good about it. It's something I want to try, or if it's something I want to watch, whatever the level of decision is. And it's feeling good about that and giving her that practice so that she can do it on her own too. So all of these things are ways to help her navigate not living her life according to other people's opinions. And really, I think we need to all follow that. It's like, are other people's opinions holding your daughter back? Are they holding you back? And are we modeling that too? So modeling is such a huge thing of, if we are not necessarily saying like, I don't care what anyone thinks, but it's like thinking, you know what, I'm going to go do this thing because it's something that aligns with my values and I believe in it, and I'm going to try it and do it, even if not everybody thinks it's great. And having those conversations around that. So empowered daughters is what we're creating, right? By giving your daughter the tools to navigate these things, these external opinions, even if she posts something on social media, not everybody's going to like it, and that's okay. And knowing that she's going to have more confidence in making her own decisions, in knowing that it's okay if she's not accepted by every single person, even though that can feel like the hardest thing in the world, especially for girls growing up. It's going to give her a stronger sense of self because she's learning how to filter out negative opinions and be like, do I really care if the boy in class teases me because I said a wrong answer? Do I really care about his opinion? It's really filtering out. No, I don't, because he makes fun of everyone and he's not my friend anyway. So I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep answering questions because I'm going to be showing other girls that it's okay too. So she's going to develop that resilience of when things don't go perfectly, to keep going, keep trying out, keep doing the things, even if other people are like, you should just give up. You shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do this or that. It's really having her have a filter for those negative opinions of others, or just not even necessarily negative, but just different opinions from others. And then it's creating that judgment-free environment that's so important, that's going to give you closer parent-daughter connections to help deepen that connection, have those conversations with her, and give her the confidence to be herself. And then just know that external opinions are always going to be around. There's nothing we can really do to prevent that from any person, but they don't define who we are. So by teaching your daughter to trust her own voice, to stay true to herself, you're setting her up for a lifetime of confidence. And when those outside voices start getting loud, she'll know exactly how to drown them out and stand strong in her own beliefs. And that's really what we want for girls, isn't it? And so I would love it if you would try one of these tips with your daughter, whether it's celebrating her uniqueness, letting her filter out negativity by doing some of these things, helping her make a decision on her own. These are small steps that are building her confidence. And so I'd love to hear from you. And again, the biggest compliment you can give is to share this with another parent or caregiver of a girl, someone this could help, because that's the whole mission of this podcast, is to give more parents tools to help support their daughters in living a confident life and feeling good about who they are. And so I'd love to hear, what are some things that are working for you? You can always reach out to me on the website, on any social media, Girls Positivity Club. And until next time, keep filtering out those negative opinions, even if it's you thinking, what will people think if I share this with them? Or what will people think if I do this? Just keep coming back to yourself and teaching your daughter to do the same, because you're doing a great job. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.